one of the things that I hear all the time, it's really more prevalent in the novel writing space, but I think it's kind of true in a lot of spaces now, is that writers should build a platform, right? Like you should go out and build a platform. And whether it's like a literary concept or you can apply it to a screenwriting concept or whatever, my question is to both of you, but I'll start with Grant. How would you define a writer or a producer's platform? What is it? And is it something that's actually worth spending time on?
I'll be honest. I got a little brief, when you sent along maybe some of the things we'd be talking about, and you put writer's platform, and I was like, I think I kind of have an idea of what that might be.
Yeah.
But I looked it up. And I wanted to see, like, what are people saying that includes in 2020?
Right.
So, I mean, I'm looking here, like, there's a pie chart. There's a pie chart here. 25% expertise, 10% contacts, 10% social media, 10% previous media, 10% previous books, 10% personality, 10% existing readership, 15% ability to execute. Nice. So I think we've just solved it, guys. It's been decided.
Hey, if there's a pie chart, it is that is 100% good to go. Yeah,
it's science.
It's right.
But I think it's helpful to sort of break it down and maybe tease out some of those elements. I don't know if I would ever put a percentage on it, but the one that stuck out to me was like a quarter of it, of this person's perspective on what a writer's platform is your expertise. And I do think that is very solid, because only you can tell the stories the way that you will tell them. Only you have your unique experiences and your unique vantage point, your perspective on the world, your experience set in the past that has led you to this place. It defines the way you interpret stories around you, the way you interact with people around you. You are an expert on you. You are. And that's a thing that they talk about in hosting and in acting. Like, I hate the idea of what is your brand, the branding, right? We're supposed to be branded. We are the product, and make sure that your fonts and your color choices and your social media all synergize and really help describe you as a brand. I think there's strength to that, but people are not products. You can't make that one-to-one comparison. It's helpful to build yourself, like the way that you want to tell stories, to find that niche, to find the area where you are an expert or you have something unique to say, and to really kind of pursue that. I think that's wise. I do think there is something to be said for levying the incredible influence that we can have on social media. I mean, the platforms are very often free. The cost is your sweat equity, right? The cost is the amount of time that it takes to build that brand, to find out. And I've been doing that with our company now for 4 years. At one point we were managing over 25 social media accounts.
Oh, wow.
And it was a lot across Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And it's exhausting. But never before, I think, have so many people been able to share so many perspectives and so many ideas if they're willing to put the time in. And there's a way to work smarter, not harder, when it comes to those things. There's a way to find out, like, where your audience is, and maybe develop your platform there, develop your reach there, find out where the party is for your fans, your community, your group, and really focus on that. I don't have the answers for everything that a writer's platform includes.
Yeah.
But I do think the stories that you have told, it's good to be able to refer people to those, so that when they find something that you've done, you can say, oh, hey, check this out too. Like, this is kind of the foundation upon which I've built the story that you liked. That's good, man. I know when I discover a band or an album, I like to listen backwards. Yeah. I like to find out everything they've done, and like, then I understand that current work more. I'm like, oh man, this is such a deviation, or, oh wow, they really doubled down on this. So yeah, I think there's wisdom into assessing the stories, the media, previous media, and also really trying to focus in on like, what do I have to say? What do I have to say that's not already been said 1,000 times before? Or in improv, we talk about how there are only so many stories in the world, right? There's nothing new under the sun. There are so many stories that we can tell, but there are innumerable people and perspectives and characters that tell those stories, and the way they interact with those standard tropes or those standard storylines, those are innumerable. Like the possibilities are endless.
I like that a lot. I'm going to pick up on a couple of those things. Anastasia, what do you think? What is this thing that we're calling a writers, producers platform, and what should it include? What should it be? What should it look like?
Well, I think it is a lot about branding yourself, right? And I'm not sure how much I understand it's important. It's a great way to be seen and stuff like that. But as a person that has been in the industry for a very long time and been branded myself multiple times in different ways, I find the best way for me since I've been doing this, I've found more headway is being my authentic self. And I think that sharing that authentic self in a variety of different platforms is ideal. Like, I think that is important. Social media, networking, all that stuff, but being authentically honest about who you are. And I went through this whole phase where I was like, oh, I'm going to do all the, the fonts and then the color filter, and it's gonna just blow up and it's gonna be great. And I looked at my stuff and I was like, well, it maybe jumped up a couple of, my social media maybe jumped up a couple of bits, and then I just didn't really even recognize who this person was, and then I looked at the people that I admired, especially like some comedic voices that I really admire that are doing the things that I want to do, and like this year and next year and whatever. And I noticed that they didn't care about that, but what they did care about was getting their voices out there in a variety of different ways. And I think that is the most important. That's your platform. Your platform is finding the ways that you can tell your vantage, your point of view from a variety of different ways. And it's so easy now to get your voice out there in so many different ways. And so many people are always like, hey, you're doing like stuff over here and over here and over here. It's too much. It's too much. And I'm like, yeah, but you listened. So I don't know, just like get your voice out there. And if you don't dig something about a certain thing, then obviously that's not your vibe. I would just move away from it. I wouldn't try to shove it. Don't shove it. A square into a round hole just because you think,
oh man,
like I just feel like it just feels inauthentic, and this is not the time. Like maybe 10 years ago, everybody wanted to like be this, just like I'm an actor and a writer, and this is what we look like and what we act. That is not this time period. This is not the era we are in of content making. They want to know who you are and why you're making this content, and they want to be on that ride with you. So I feel like that's the most important. That was my first. You're welcome.
Are you familiar with? I mean, you guys spend much time on Reddit?
Yes, I still don't quite get Reddit, but I do. I'm on there.
I kind of love Reddit. But like you said, there's so many platforms. Like I absolutely missed the whole bandwagon for Snapchat. Like I never did Snap. I don't have a TikTok footprint yet, but there's a community on Reddit called Fellow Kids. It's a subreddit is the platform where it's an internet forum. They build themselves as the front page of the internet, and you can find specific communities that are like super amped about the most specific things. But this one is a pretty popular group called Fellow Kids. It's from 30 Rock, where Steve Buscemi tries to go undercover as a high schooler.
I love that.
Kind of like a 21 Jump Street situation. Right. And he like is so old and he like turns his cap around and he like greets these high schoolers in the hallway and he says, "Hello, fellow kids." And it's just so good. Like this entire internet community finds places where corporations try to like tweet a cool tweet, or people try to like express a business pitch or like a commercial thing or like any kind of big ask or like kind of a corporate presence in a social media group, and they just so miss the mark because it's just screams inauthentic. So sometimes when I'm making posts, I'm like, I just don't want to end up on that subreddit. Like, is this real, or am I trying to be a fellow kid?
I think that if you feel that way, then maybe, take a look at it. But I also think that we get really scared to be ourselves, right? And I feel like as creatives and as comedians, we are we have our moments of insecurity. And I think that a lot of times when we don't want to share our voice and we want to hide behind this generic, like, this is what I'm supposed to look like on a platform, it really is just fear about sharing yourself and sharing your voice. And the truth is, you can't really be a great writer or a great storyteller or a great actor or whatever if you're not going to share the authenticity of yourself. And it's scary. Maybe don't tweet everything. I tweet a lot. I should probably not tweet a lot of stuff, but there were years where I was like, oh, well, somebody's going to be mad at me. Well, yeah. Somebody will, but somebody's always going to be mad. I'm so sorry. And just being yourself is so much more freeing for your creative process. It's just so much better. It makes your voice less muffled, to be honest.
It's true. Like I said earlier, I feel like people can smell that a mile away. I think it is important to be fearless in being your authentic self, because only you can do that. Only you can do that. And so I do think being honest in those posts, regardless of the format, is the best way to go.
Yeah. Share it, cry after, and talk to your therapist, and then.
That's a good rule. Yeah. I would. So here's kind of my philosophy about this idea of a platform. I think that what is being sold to people, and it's the reference you had there, Grant, with the pie chart, is like almost proves my point because of how ridiculous it is. In my opinion, is that people who are advising writers and producers on how to get their name out there basically are like, look, if you build this thing, then they will come. And what you both said after that was, you both said, no, just be yourself, have a unique voice, and then start to develop that audience. And I think that, like, because people will gravitate towards what you're doing. And I think that's the proper way to look at it. Like, anybody who goes out and tells you, like, you need to have a platform, well, if you're talking to a beginner or even an intermediate writer, chances are they probably don't need a platform, because chances are they probably don't have much of an audience yet. And for me, I would say concentrate on building your audience, and then your audience is going to go, where do I go to find more of your stuff? And like, how do I get to know more about you? And then build the platform. But they're going to figure out that second part because you're going to give them stories that they love. And when you give them the stories they love, Grant, just like you said, Grant, they're going to go, I want to know more about you. What other stories have you done? What other perspectives do you have? And then you can build a platform. But to think that you would build the platform first, to me, is like, no. Build your audience first, because you can get all wrapped up in this platform building. And the reality is there's no audience for that platform. And then now you've got to go back and rebuild the audience, and then go back and probably rebuild the platform, because you'll realize you didn't really build it the way you had intended to build it. And so to me, I'm always more of a person that's like, look, concentrate on your stories, concentrate on finding an audience that loves what you do. And that's, to me, is much more similar to the Pixar model. Like, if you look at some of the big production companies that were like actually legit tech startups, and you combine the two of like, how did they go about doing what they were doing? For a while, they would say Pixar is releasing a movie, but if you went to Pixar's website back in the day, it would just be whatever their latest project was. It wasn't like, hey, here's a bunch of Pixar information. It was, we're going to become known for reaching an audience that knows us, that knows what to expect when they go to a movie theater and experience one of our stories. And we're building that particular audience. And of course, then we'll have a website where you can go find all the rest of the stories that we do. But I think a lot of people get it backwards, because it's almost kind of like, I think this is the mentality, is that as a writer, a lot of people think you're not going to produce your own stuff. So therefore, you should try and have a platform, because then producers will see you have a platform, and then they'll pay you to write stuff for them. And it's like, okay, producers are more likely to work with you anyways if you have an audience, and they're not going to care so much about this platform idea. Build that later when you have people demanding it, but first and foremost, build your audience. So that's kind of my take on it.
And build your content. Just make stuff. Like that's the thing. You have to start making stuff. And to be honest, you're saying like either people are like, I'm not going to produce it. You will produce it. The first few things that you do, you are going to be producing it. So I would focus more on getting through the first few bumps and errors of going through your first few productions and just doing that. Make the content and don't make an excuse. Well, I have to wait until I make the website and I have to make, and like, just do it. Just make it.
Exactly. That's a great way to clarify that. I love it.